when you're a bootstrapping entrepreneur, like most black people,
Yeah.
any mistake you make is magnified more
Yes.
because you don't have the same capital to recover from that.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to qualify the journey of black entrepreneurship versus
Yeah.
other cultures. Even
Welcome to Keys to the Culture podcast. This is your hostess with the mostest, Maisha, and this is a place where we celebrate creators and entrepreneurs who are changing the game, who shape the culture around us and give relevance to the creator economy, one post at a time. In other words, we're rooting for everybody black. And here we love to highlight amazing people who are doing great things. And our guest today is the epitome of a man who is doing great things, not only for his community, for his family, and creating a legacy. So we are talking about Ryan Morgan. Let me read up a little bit about him so you get a little backstory. Growing up in the gang-ridden streets of San Bernardino, he was sent to federal prison for armed robbery at 19, which changed his life forever. Coming from an under-resourced urban community, he experienced the detrimental impact it can have on residents, and during his arrest for attempted robbery, he vowed to rewrite his story. He ultimately earned his MBA. He was released in his mid-20s. He did 12 years in, American corporate America, where he has put his stamp on the beverage industry and he was overseeing a net sales of $34 million. He launched a social enterprise, Aqua Equity, which is doing amazing things in our community. So help me welcome Ryan Morgan.
thank you, Maisha. Thank you for having me. It's an honor, privilege to be here.
Yeah, I'm so happy that you're here because so many people need to hear your story. But before we dive deep into his story, I have one question for you.
Yeah.
When did you know that black creativity was the culture?
As a little kid, like you turn on the radio to see Michael Jackson, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Just as a little kid, I mean, that was one of the first things to take pride in being black is, seeing somebody on the screen or hearing somebody, on the radio that inspired you, and everybody was kind of, I don't want to say worshiping, but looking up to. So, yeah.
I remember Mike. I remember Mike when I was a kid.
Yeah.
It's everybody's go-to entertainer. Everybody has taken his sauce, and remixed it, of course, but he's a legend, man. Yeah, and you are a legend, too. You are creating some amazing things yourself.
On my way.
You putting your stamp.
A lot of work to do.
Oh, yeah, we all do, but we getting there, but you're doing it, and I want to give you your flowers for that, all the amazing things that you're doing. Hey, it's your girl Maisha from Keys to the Culture podcast. Are you a creative building a brand and want to take your business to the next level? Then listen up because I got some exciting news for you. One of the fastest ways to reach your target audience is to promote on Keys to the Culture podcast. Why? Because we have some of the biggest names in the game, from musicians to CEOs to creatives and bosses of all kinds. So this is your chance to tap into our audience to grow your business to the next level. We work with small businesses as well as newbies in the game. So don't worry if you're just starting out, we got you covered. Are you ready to promote on Keys to Culture podcast? Well, click the link in the bio to promote today. But we love to start from the beginning and give people a little backstory of who you are. Let's start with where you grew up. How was your life growing up?
You know what? Looking back, when you're a kid, and thank God for this, a lot of times you don't realize what you're missing, until you get these things that you didn't have, right? Until you grow up in kind of more an affluent situation. So when I was growing up as a kid in the 80s, in the early 90s, it's sad but true. There was hardly any fathers around. It was rare, very rare for any of my friends to have their dad in the home. And, we can get into that about the reasons. We know that there was, purposeful laws to take fathers out the home. Crack cocaine did its thing. The violence from gangs took a lot of fathers out early. But so growing up without a father, it was normal. Yeah. But now that I'm a man and adult, I realized that was a whole generation of kids, of young men and women, boys and girls that were living abnormally, right? Not having a big piece of the family there to help guide and lead and protect and, you know, give wisdom. So that left a void. And so, you know, when you reach, my son is 11, and when you start to reach that age, 11, 12, now you're starting to wonder what a man is like. You know, what is a hero, you know?
Yeah.
And so in San Bernardino, it's very much like Compton and Watts and South Central, and, you know, parts of Long Beach, where it's the boys on the block, you know? That's who you seeing is like, you know, oh, everybody's looking up to them. And unfortunately, those examples were not healthy examples.
Yeah.
So it was much of that. And at the same time, there was like a dichotomy where one foot in sports helped you excel in life and keep you out of some trouble. So I was that kind of kid where I was really very good at sports. I was a great athlete, so I was always playing some type of sport. But, you know, living in the neighborhood I did, it was just natural. My cousins, uncles were in gangs, so, you know, that's what you would gravitate to. So it was a lot like that.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, as you got older and not having a father in the home, how did it affect you mentally?
Just a warped sense of what manhood is, really. And then the insecurity of trying to prove that. So you have a warped sense of what manhood is, because you're looking at, you know, the boys in the hood, or, you know, the men that are still acting like boys that are on the block in the hood that are older than you, and the dirt that they're doing, but they got respect, right? They're commanding fear, and so with this kind of warped sense of what manhood is as an adolescent, that's what you were seeing. And I can remember, as sick as this is looking back, now I'm 46, but I can remember when I was a teenager, like, aspiring to go to the penitentiary. Like, that was stripes.
Wow.
Like, that helped me achieve more manhood. That type of, you know, miseducation and mentality. So not having a father in the home, you know, if you have a father in the home, he help correct that and help put you, nah, son, you know, you need to excel at things that are gonna benefit your family, the community. Yeah. So there was a void of that type of voice, big time.
Yeah. And you know what I noticed too, like a lot of young men, because I grew up with a lot of brothers. And, you know, my dad was not instrumental in our lives, but he wasn't far to find. Like we can go to my grandma's house and we can find him. But, you know, just having conversations with them and some other young men in the neighborhood, now that they're fathers, they're making up for what their father didn't supply them. They're making sure that they're in their kids' life and going to football games and having those conversations. And I think that's what a lot of young men are missing now, you know, the ones that don't, unfortunately, they don't have a father in a home. And you see these things going on in LA, all these robberies that are happening, shoplifting. You know, what is your perspective on that, and what can we do to put in place to help young men specifically to really get a hold on what's going on in society?
Well, you know, part of the responsibility and blame goes to my generation, right? I'm 46. And then the generation before me, because something happened in the 80s where we lost as a people leadership of behaving with dignity, right? Like in the 60s and the 70s, you know, we had the civil rights leaders, right? And then we had black-centered political parties like the Black Panther, you know, or the Nation of Islam. You know, Nation of Islam still exists, but it was more prominent, and the Black Panther, obviously, party was more prominent in the minds of black people. And whether or not you subscribe to their political philosophies, they had leadership and represented a type of dignity, right? And at some point in the 80s, that was lost, right? Like, just looking around at this room is a great job of putting covers from different iconic people, celebrities, right? And they're all entertainers or sports. we don't have Malcolm X anymore. We don't have Dr. Martin Luther King anymore. We lost Nelson Mandela.
Yes.
So who's telling them?
Yeah.
Right? Now all the leadership is coming from the TV, the YouTube, the podcast. What my hope is that, you know, one of these iconic celebrities, one of these black iconic celebrities, and I don't need to name no names, we all know who has that kind of power, that their heart is moved and breaks enough to where, with sincerity, they link up with somebody in the streets, in the trenches, that is serving our people. That doesn't have that platform that one of these black iconic celebrities, whether it's in music or in sports or on the big screen movies, has. Because we're seeing the fruits of that void, right, with this generation. And they're chasing that bag. And that's a whole nother topic.
Yes.
I'm a student of history and love history. One of the subjects I excelled in school, one of the few subjects I excelled in school. And just recently have read The Keeper and the Guest. Have you ever heard of that book?
I've never heard of that book.
It's an Ethiopian history book. Have you ever heard of Queen Sheba?
Yes.
So it is a declaration, Ethiopian history book, ancient. They don't know exactly when it was written. They speculate around 150 AD, so antiquity time. But it chronicles the story of the monarchy in Ethiopia and the dynasty that they had through ancient times and what they were able to achieve. And when we talk about we come from kings and queens as a people, we really do, but a lot of us don't really know who those actual people were in history, right? We say, oh, we come from kings and queens. Name them. Well, this is a real queen. Her name was Makeda, Queen of Sheba, which was a dynasty spread from Ethiopia, Arabia. She was so powerful, she went to visit King Solomon with a whole caravan of jewels and spices that were, you know, from all over the world, and luxury items, and nobody robbed her. She went through Egypt, from Ethiopia to Jerusalem. But this book, this history book, talks about that, and she ended up having a son with King Solomon named Menelik.
Wow.
It talks about in the Bible that she converted to Judaism and brought that back to her people. She spent a year with King Solomon in Jerusalem. And this is in other books too. I'm a historian, so there's other books that you can read. The book of Jasher, and this is in the Ethiopian Bible. But before I go too far on a tangent, so I recommend every African American to read The Keeper and the Guest. It will give you more of a sense of pride that is directly linked to history. On us being kings and queens, and hopefully these things are seeds and make you, think about, like, am I acting dignified? Like, So.
I love that. Look, you're going to have to give me a list of books, because I read. I love books. I love history. That was one of my favorite subjects too. So I can highly relate to that. I love it.
Yes.
And,
Start
we
with
really.
The Keeper and the Guest.
Okay, I'm here for it. We got to teach our people.
We've been about promoting our black women and celebrating our black women.
Come on.
Since history. So, like, it kind of hurt my heart that I saw a lot of sisters joining the Me Too movement, and I get, I get where they're coming from, feeling oppressed. Yes. But to say oppressed by men as a black man made me feel like, really? Has black men ever oppressed you? Like, we celebrate our sisters.
Now let's talk about it.
Oppression is coming from the same white man as oppressing us.
Yeah, because I'm not a feminist, and I did not subscribe to some of the ideologies that they were associating with the Me Too movement. And as a black woman, I can tell you straight up, like, I've had strong black men around me, men who are very protective, men who have always been there for me. So there's some things I could not relate to, but, there are some negative experience we go through in life, and we experience, especially as women, you go into these environments. But
Sure.
I totally understand what you're saying. I can relate to it. And, it's a subject that's very touchy, but at the same time, I think it has to be a communication between black men and black women. We have to start talking and not going at each other's throats.
Yes.
We got
Because what I saw, it was as a new Willie Lynch tactic to divide us.
Yes.
That's how I saw it.
Yes.
Right? Because as a student of history, my studying serves me that Sojourner Truth tried to join this woman suffrage movement that Susan B. Anthony started, and she was barred because she was black.
Absolutely.
So, African American people, black people as a whole, the transatlantic diaspora, we got to stick together, but especially African American folks.
Absolutely.
We cannot have our home and family divided on this battle of the sexes that we didn't start. That's what I'm trying to say.
See, now you're talking. Yes, let's go into that, because I've been talking that with a lot of friends privately. We've been talking about the battle of sexes, and it has become like a hot topic in today's society. Every podcast is talking about it. We go on TV, they're talking about it. When we see images and visuals for campaigns, they don't look like us. There's no longer black men and black women on the campaigns. So we have to really talk about what the narrative is and how we're contributing to shaping that narrative by going at each other's throat. Communication is so important, because I love black men and I'm a safe place for black men. So we talk all the time. I have
We
black.
need you, sister.
Yes, I have
Maisha,
brothers.
we need you.
I have friends that are really close to me. I'm close to their wives, their girlfriends. And we just have conversations, open conversations. And we may not always agree on everything, but we can have intelligent conversations and reach a resolve.
Yes.
So I think that's what's missing. It's more of a tick for tack, and it's not really a conversation to resolve anything. Because if you look at it, they have any conversations, but there's never a solution at the end.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. It's a lot of like, I'm gonna pay you back. I'm gonna get one over on you.
Right.
That's not love.
That's not love.
That's a house divided. So,
Yeah.
I'm really about looking at a holistic view of what's best for our people, right? You get to a point where after you're coming out of a hospital, right, where everybody's sick or injured, and you heal faster than the rest of the folks that you've all been in this hospital.
Yeah.
I'm using an analogy. You formed relationships, bonds, right? And maybe it was a cancer ward and you beat it and they're still in there. Now, would you just go on and live your best life and just forget about these folks, and be able to fully in your heart enjoy life and not go back and visit, not pray for them, not do what you can to bring, some type of goodness to their life? Because you just came out of that. You was with them.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, my journey now, because as you mentioned, I spent 12 years in corporate America. Straight out of college, got recruited in the alcohol beverage industry, helped launch, some of the biggest brands to this day. New Amsterdam Vodka helped launch that from scratch.
Amazing.
Spent 8 of those 12 years in management, and along the way had a lot of professional accolades, which came from bonuses and came from bigger offices and bigger salaries, right? And more exotic corporate trips and these wine and dine you. But when I would go to our national sales meeting, and this was in the alcohol beverage space, right? And we know there's a lot of exploitation, especially in the alcohol beverage industry.
Yes.
But I was kind of being rocked to sleep, by what, we had a corporate suite at Staples Center. It used to be Staples Center back then before crypto. So I'm like, Drake concert, Kendrick Lamar concert, Lakers, but I would get waking up out of this days when I would go to a national sales conference in New Orleans or some Miami, 500 people, and I can count on my hand how many black men. Right? But yet we're trying to sell our tequila and our cognac to the next Travis Scott consumer. Well, hire some. You're trying to figure out, one black man to speak monolithic, you know what I'm trying to say.
Lithic, yeah.
Monolithic. And so that, I was becoming disgruntled.
Yeah.
Because I stopped patting myself on the back, and I felt like, you know what, man, they trying to make me so content with all the luxury and all that I'm good here in my lane.
Yes.
Y'all got to figure out I made it. You can too.
Yeah.
Nah, I'm trying to reach my hand and pull somebody up here.
Absolutely.
So in 2019, I had an opportunity, and it was really kind of before, in my own mind, my timeline, okay, let me 5 more years in corporate America. I'm going to stack my chips more. I'll be in better position to help, my community.
Yeah.
Well, I ended up having to go to a federal mediation on some kind of racism, corporate racism. I can't get into the details because we worked it out, signed the NDA, and but I took that money from that situation and started Aqua Equity because I didn't have right then an idea or epiphany to leave corporate America. I thought there could be another corporate type of organization that didn't want to just make money, but want to make a difference. I didn't see that. So that is what led to the birth of Aqua Equity. I didn't want to leave the beverage space and was looking for a vehicle in the beverage space you could use to make money, but let's make a difference.
Yeah.
And, water is universal. It's one of the greatest needs for vitality in life.
Yeah.
So that's the birth of it, to use water to help address the equity gaps. Aqua Equity.
Water is life.
Water is life.
So giving life back to the community.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. And with Aqua Equity, there are so many things that you guys are doing in the community. Can you just name a few things that you guys are currently doing and what actually is going to be happening soon as well with the brand?
So we work with select nonprofits, and one of our main partners is Think Watts. And so we started linking up with Think Watts during the beginning of the pandemic, and it came organic. Just in Watts and Compton, they had a bunch of elderly folks that couldn't get to the stores in time and get bottled water. And there was, remember, a run in the stores with bottled water. It was all gone. Toilet paper was all gone. And in Watts and parts of Compton, the tap water is no good. It's that Flint, Michigan problem. Comes out with lead and all cloudy. So that wasn't an option. So we were getting calls from the neighborhood council, who was already working with Sticks and his nonprofit, Think Watts, if we could donate our water. He had a clipboard of like hundreds of homes around Watts and Compton, literally with the addresses, the names. And he's a vegan, and he got donations from Beyond Meat Burger, and I want to give credit to the cafe that cooked up the burgers, but he got a burger joint to cook up the Beyond Meat burgers. So we had cooked burgers. We had like 12 cars. We loaded up each car, the trunk, with Aqua Equity water, with burgers, and we just started doing food distributions, and it started to evolve. So that was our first kind of community service avenue, was being involved in food distributions. And then we started doing it in Nickerson Gardens every week. And then we saw, we're giving out fish, but we need to, teach them how to fish and teach them how to build a fishing pole. So then in 2021, we launched and facilitated our first entrepreneur training program at the STEM Lab in Nickerson Gardens.
Amazing.
So we did a session in fall of 2021 and a session in the spring of 2022. And so we gave out, it was a project-based kind of entrepreneur program where their innovators are taking, concept to creation on a pitch deck in a Shark Tank type of environment for a grant. So we had like a $3,000 grant up for grabs for the winner. We had guest speakers, entrepreneurs to help, make more enriching. So we continue to do that, but we have pivoted and we realized we can let Think Watts do that better. They're connected through MasterCard with other financial literacy programs. So we support Think Watts, and they just did a financial literacy program that wrapped up last month in September at the Beehive. Was where they were doing this. And so we do that. That's going to kick off again in the spring. We're involved in food drives. Tomorrow we'll be in Watts at Ted Watkins Park with Think Watts. We'll have our own tent and booth there. It's they're having their inaugural Hispanic Heritage Festival. In the leadership team of Think Watts, it's a black and brown organization. We know LA is a black and brown city.
Yes.
So he has two strong Latina women help on his leadership team. So it was time to have a nod and a hug to our Latino brothers and sisters. So this is the inaugural Hispanic Heritage Festival at Ted Watkins and Watts. Beyond that, what else are we doing? I like to mentor. I get invited to be a guest speaker at certain universities or schools. So I had the invitation from LMU this year, and I'll mentor one of the brothers there. And then I'll be speaking at St. John Bosco. They have an entrepreneur program. So I know I'm forgetting a lot. But our main three pillars is community, environment, and education. Oh, the cleanup. So we organize community cleanup. So obviously us being in reusable, sustainable aluminum packaging as opposed to single-use plastic is part of our nod to the environment. And then we organize the community cleanups because the city, they don't do enough. God bless them.
Yeah. But you guys are doing amazing things.
Thank you.
Which is inspirational, it's motivational, and it's moving in action. And instead of just talking about it, you guys are actually moving in action and making a difference. But I really want to take people through entrepreneurship because there's a lot of people, this word has been thrown around, especially during the pandemic. There's been a surge of entrepreneurs, which I love it. I love the fact that but when we start off on our journey in entrepreneurship, some people just don't know what to do. Let's walk through the journey of entrepreneurship. What did you need to know to build your company? And if anyone else wants to build a beverage company of any sort, like what are some key steps in doing that?
Well, I think it's really beneficial to qualify, and I'm speaking generally, right? Black entrepreneurship is a lot different than other cultures' entrepreneurship.
Yes.
Because we have the hardest time as a people in this country getting access to capital.
Say it again.
Access to capital.
Yes.
Like the greatest ideas, you hear about ideas like Elon Musk had and like, oh, he's a genius. Yeah, he's that. I mean, there's a lot of black geniuses, but believe me, in his family relationships and his education relationships, his orbit, there was people that he could go to with his idea to angel invest and give him seed money of $1 million or more to get going, right? A new business doesn't make money for a length of time, and that's called a cash burn. And most black entrepreneurs, black and brown too, don't have that type of significant startup money to make the business go, right?
Yes.
And we do what's called bootstrapping in entrepreneurship. So being a bootstrapping entrepreneur is a whole different road than being an entrepreneur that has the access to VCs coming out of Yale or Harvard, and you can get into these rooms and pitch your idea, don't even have a viable product yet.
Yes.
But you got a good PowerPoint and a good idea, and you're telling a story, and they, boom, write you a check for $5 million.
Yes.
Starting off as an entrepreneur with a check for $5 million is a way different path, right? You can take a lot more risk. You can afford to incur a lot more losses and setbacks and recovery because you have capital that can help make up for those mistakes. When you're a bootstrapping entrepreneur, like most black people, any mistake you make is magnified more because you don't have the same capital to recover from that. So I just want to qualify the journey of black entrepreneurship versus other cultures. Even my brothers and sisters that are Semitic folks, you're talking about Syrians, Arabians, they have wealth where they can come from their own country here on a visa or here temporarily, got a loan from somebody in their own country because they want to see them in that country come succeed and make the American dream and pay me back when you make it. We don't have that. We can't go to somebody in Nigeria and be like, hey, cousin,
come on.
I'm over here in LA. You tapped into the oil fields in Nigeria, so invest. So it's just a way different journey. So when a black entrepreneur makes it from bootstrapping, it should be celebrated way more
Yes.
than what we know that gets all the headlines that's celebrated, because we start out with way less. We making $1 out of 15 cents.
Absolutely. And a lot of us use our own finances all the
Yeah.
time. That's what we going to work, we take that money, reinvest into our business, our idea,
Yes.
and trying to make that happen.
Yes. So with all of the success that Aqua Equity has been having, this is one of the brokest times of my life, because, and this is not a sob story or anything. This is just part of the journey, right?
Yes, it is.
I know the best is yet to come, right?
Absolutely.
And this is just, you got to go through that desert before you get to the oasis.
Speak life.
So with Black entrepreneurship bootstrapping, you're using your life savings, right? You're using your credit cards,
Yes.
right? And whatever kind of money that you can get from your network, which they say is your net worth.
Yes.
And you trying to make that thing go. Now, what happened with us is we launched in March 2020.
Oh, wow.
Then the pandemic
Very
hit,
new.
right?
Yeah.
And there's certain things as an entrepreneur, you do your best with a SWOT analysis. You try to
Yes.
identify strengths, weaks, the opportunities, the threats.
Yeah.
But there's things that just happen in life you cannot plan for or see. Who knew a pandemic was going to come and shut the world down, right?
Yeah.
We launched with a business line of credit from Chase that has a 12-month interest-free expiration, pandemic or no pandemic. So by the time we were able to really start using that business line of credit, now we got this high interest rate, 18%, to start paying that line of credit back. That's our little bit of capital to use, which we would have had 12 months to use it interest-free if the pandemic wasn't hit, to make things go. So that, in itself was like, boom, it blew up our route to market. So we just had to, okay, let's focus on what's in our control, control the controllables. What can we do to amplify the brand and kind of get the most we can in this opportunity situation? And so we got more involved in our social work and used our product donations and put that into our marketing bucket. We don't have dollars to spend to advertise on Instagram or YouTube or this or that. But we serve the community, and we're not going to be foolish about it. We need to capture what we're doing so we can connect potential followers and customers that can't get to Watts and Compton, especially during the lockdown, but want to be a part of this. And maybe they'll buy Aqua Equity to help us keep going more. So we donated in 2020 alone $25,000 worth of product.
Woo.
Just pallets on pallets. Like I said, there was a need in the calling.
Absolutely.
And when you're an entrepreneur, especially bootstrap, I don't know how anybody can or would without some type of faith in a higher power, because there are so many unknowns and variables out of your control that there are gaps between what you have and where you need to go. And you need a bridge, and you don't know where that's going to come from. If you don't have faith, I don't know how you can do it, but I would have folded a long time ago.
Yes.
I'm a disciple of Jesus Christ, so I'm on my knees every day. I need a boost. I need emotional boost. I need I see other people making it. I'm like, man, when's our season? But
come on, Jesus.
Yeah, you have to have some type of faith. Otherwise, you holding everything close. Like, I can't afford to give this. I can't afford to do this. You have to believe that you sowing seeds, right? Farmers have a lot of faith, because you sowing seeds and you doing your thing to water in it. And as an entrepreneur, I like to use a farmer's analogy, right? Your vision and your business plan is kind of like you sowing the seed, and then then you go work that plan that you wrote out, and that's kind of like watering and fertilizing, right? And you promoting the brand, right? You fertilizing it. But you don't know as a farmer if you're going to produce a crop. You don't know if locusts are going to come and eat that crop. You don't know frost or mold, right? You got to have a lot of faith to produce 100-fold harvest. And that's what we're trying to do as a successful Black entrepreneur, because you're starting out with 15 cents trying to make $1. That's a 100-fold harvest, right? So it takes a lot of faith. So part of my encouragement or advice to bootstrapping entrepreneurs would be, you need to have some faith, right? And you need to have a team of folks, and your team could be as small as 2 other people. I would say at least 2 other people, so you a group of 3 that are with you on the vision, and if you don't control that, then you don't control that, right?
Yeah.
But if you have access to that, that is valuable, right? You need that team because you're gonna have lows emotionally. You need a reminder that no, you got this. You on your way. Look what you're doing. Don't give up now. You need some encouragement, all right? And then on a practical level, you need a good credit score.
Yes.
Because that good credit score is something that you can help control before you launch into entrepreneurship. So if you got bad credit now, you need to do the things to improve your credit, because as a bootstrapping entrepreneur, a lot of times what we have access to, if you have good credit, is you can get a business line of credit, right? So that might be $10,000, it might be $20,000, depends on what your personal revenue history is. They're gonna look at your salary, deposits in your personal bank account, and combine that with your credit score, and they're gonna put that in their formula of risk ratio and give you a business line of credit. And a lot of times, like with our case, depending on the bank, it comes with a 12-month free interest rate. They want you to use that to promote your business, so where you could start generating revenue. You can't get that business line of credit without at least a 700 credit score.
Yeah.
Right. I done jacked up my credit score now. It's probably like 570 because I had maxed out all the credit cards to make this thing go. But I was able to get access to a business line of credit because at the time my credit score was like a 710, which is decent. But as a bootstrapping entrepreneur, it's really grants.
Yes.
Micro loans, so there's CDFIs. One of them is a Black Cooperative Investment Fund. There's Fund Black Founders with Drew Holiday. Yes. He's funded several Black businesses around LA. South LA Cafe's been one. Prosperity Market is another one in LA.
Yeah.
Black businesses been funded by Fund Black Founders. So you're looking at a business line of credit. So whatever money you have on top of that, business line of credit, 700 credit score or better. Grants. So there's LA County grants, City County grants. So we are up for economic opportunity grant from LA County now. That's $15,000 in phase 2. They all have different various amounts, but these are things that you're going to have for your business, as opposed to other affluent entrepreneurs that start off with $1 million check.
Yeah, and a lot of listen, y'all, it's not easy. I can tell you from experience because I'm actually in the startup space as well. I have a mobile app called UCrowd, and just being in that space as a Black person, a woman, and then you go into these rooms and you're pitching, and it's a sea of white men. Yeah. So, that's what a lot of the startup space looks like. So when we have representation of people that look like us and really, really trying to make a difference, especially with a strong brand like yours, we have to fully support. And our community has to support in whatever way they can, whether that is sharing, whether that is helping them with partnerships, buying the product. Yes. Like it takes a community to make a brand grow. Yes. And I'm in marketing too. So from my experience helping small businesses or startups is really looking at their brand and seeing where the greatest need is and trying to give them the best resources they need. And that's what we need a lot of times. It's just the small little things that you guys can do. Everybody can be involved.
I think we're going to get there as a people. We have like everything is set up for us to make a big economic shift as a people in terms of supporting Black business. And so you hit it on the head. When we do that, we are one of the biggest consumer spenders as a people in America. We spend more to our detriment now because we spend more per capita than any group. Yes. We have the least amount of discretionary income. That discretionary income means after all the bills is paid off, after all the things that need to be paid, I got money left over for what I want to pay for, right?
Absolutely.
We blow that thing up and like, nah, I want this. I'll figure out how to pay for it later.
Yes.
Now, one of the things that when I said we're close to crossing over, I think this could be within the next 10 years, is if that's how our people's behavior is, right? How can we make that work for us instead of like shaking a finger, oh, that's bad, you guys need to do better on how you spend. Okay, maybe that's true, but they're not willing to hear that right now.
Yeah.
We want some success because we've been grinding as a people, and that's the way we feel better through material things. If that is the case, then we need to look at the material things within our own community. Why are we sending money to Italy and France for Gucci and Louis Vuitton as if there is no black luxury designers that we can spend that money for to feel good and get that bag?
Come on now.
I told you I'm a student of history. If you read that Keeper and the Guest, you'll think twice about buying Gucci. You think twice about. I mean, let's just talk real quick on history. It wasn't too long ago. Italy invaded Ethiopia. The last emperor in Africa was Haile Selassie. He had to leave Ethiopia in 1935 and run for his life. You know, so that wasn't that. That's that, you know what I mean. But yet, you know, we forget the history that, like I said, that was one of the strongest monarchies of us being kings and queens, and we say that all the time about ourselves. So why would we patronize? And I ain't trying to blame Gucci, but you know, Gucci been around for hundreds of years. They tied into that whole regime that did that. So it's just like, you know, what other people in the world, right? Could you imagine Jewish folks that feel some kind of way about the Holocaust, bigging up Volkswagen or bigging up Porsche or you know what I mean? It just it don't make historical sense.
I understand.
So I think we close to waking up on that. And I think it's going to take an iconic celebrity, either in the athletic space, a professional athlete, or the entertainment space, to help send that message. Where we don't celebrate that no more, because right now we still use that as a badge of an accolade. I made it in this world. Look at my Louis. I made it in this world. Look at my Gucci.
Come on.
As black people, when we know your history, it's and I don't want to, like, I'm not above nobody, right? I just have acquired some historical knowledge that makes me see our spin different and things that we do as a people to self-sabotage us and keep us down when we could rise up. And we have that ability. We close. When we start saying, you know what, as a people, we're not following this brand no more until they get right. Yeah, they did something 100 years ago, but they never made it right.
You're right.
So when we take that stance as a people, because this is all most of our oppression, our problems are economically rooted. Slavery was an economic thing. The whole Jim Crow was to suppress us from taking economic positions of power in corporations and leadership. So we can solve a lot of our problems as a people through economics and just being wiser and smarter.
And you did mention Willie Lynch a little earlier, economic Willie Lynch syndrome. Explain a little bit of what that means.
I don't know if everybody know who Willie Lynch is and what that is.
Well, let's go into a little history lesson what Willie Lynch is and the concept, or if this is really a person. Because there's been some speculations it wasn't a real person, but it was
he wrote a book.
Concept.
No, he had a playbook. No, he was a real person. He was a slave master in Virginia, and now, I haven't read up on Willie Lynch and his history, personal, so I believe it was in Virginia. He had a plantation, so if I got the state wrong, don't hold that against me. But he was so successful in how he ran his plantation in the control of his slaves. And you remember, the average slave plantation, it was at least 100 to 1. 100 slaves versus one slave master.
And he was in the West Indies, too.
Well, no. So what he did was he wrote this book. Now he did go to the West Indies, because the West Indies had the most savage kind of plantations in Jamaica. They used rape and homosexual rape in order to really create terror in the folk. They would get the strongest black man, out of the group and rape him in front of everybody. So what he did, Willie Lynch, was he wrote a playbook on how to control your slaves, right? And it was, you might be right. He might have had his plantation in the West Indies, and then he went to Virginia but he basically traveled around. He was like a celebrity with this book and playbook, and it talked about how you control your slaves is you divide them up, right? You create division. You don't want unity with the slaves. They'd already took away things that create intrinsic unity, like the language, right? Cultural celebrations, religions, things like that. But then it went further and said, if you divide them up versus lighter skin and darker skin, versus hair texture, coarse versus not as coarse, versus nose width, and just different ways you create division. And, you know, we hear about the women. The field slave versus the house nigga, right? Yeah. To create envy and jealousy, and it was so shrewd that they knew, okay, if we can create almost like a class within the slaves, right? So one slave feels like my life is a little bit better than these other slaves. There will be a buffer for us against the slaves, the majority of them in the field that revolt. The slaves in the house that have a little more luxury will act as a buffer and let us know if a revolt is coming or help suppress it and ally with us. So that's like the premise of the Willie Lynch, is that you divide up those that are oppressed, and then you let a certain segment of the oppressed get some benefits, so they act as a class separate than the rest of the oppressed and is a buffer.
So how does that mirror what is going on today?
So a lot of what you hear is like the chase of the bag and the chase of the almighty dollar and money, right? And then there's a tie of individuality expression to that.
Yeah.
And, you know, on the surface, that's not bad, right? Chasing prosperity. It seems like that's what it is, right? And then expressing yourself so you're not just lost in the masses, you're not just a number, right? We're all special and unique. And so on the surface, that's all sounds good.
Yeah.
But what it really is to do is to try to create some type of disengagement of the suffering of your people. Because if you can get somebody to say, you know what, I want to separate myself from the herd of my folks, right?
Yeah.
And I want to express myself individually, and I'm going to do that through material things, right? And that's going to help me feel better, right? I don't want, you know, bring my vibe down. I want to be up. I want, you know. That is okay in a affluent community, right? But when you come from a group of people that are struggling, that are the oppressed, that need to break free from bondage, you are abandoning your people, so to speak, right? And it's a type of self-centeredness, you know? But I understand it. I understand wanting to express yourself individually, but I just think, again, because we're not owners of things. So even like some of the best black brands, they don't own the factories making the brands.
That's true.
So that brand could disappear anytime.
Absolutely.
What happened to FUBU? I mean, I know trends come and go, but like, so if FUBU had a factory, they could be making some other designers out of that factory.
Yeah.
So we don't own like the equipment and the machines and the land. You know what I mean? It's like crop sharing. It's a new age crop sharing.
Ooh.
And so the path that Aqua Equity is now on, and we've had a lot of aha moments. Is so we saw that like our cost of goods was way too high because we don't own a factory where we make this, right? And when we got into aluminum bottle, we just assumed more factories would be available so that we could say, you know what, we don't like your price, we can go over here.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's only like 5 producers in the whole country that do aluminum bottles.
Wow.
Yeah. And there's only a couple makers, of aluminum bottles in the country, right? So there is kind of like a monopoly on it. And now our aha moment is like, that's an opportunity. We need to have our own factory.
Absolutely.
So that way we can connect with the Haitian brothers and sisters, farmers in Haiti, and get some coconut water that we got from Haiti, and we're giving back and supporting that transatlantic diaspora economics, you know, we can get some sugar cane from Jamaica or Blue Mountain coffee from Jamaica. You know, there's things that we can do with our own bottling facility and pivot away and do more, not pivot away, but do more than just a brand, right? Make actual things, you know, not
beyond
just stamp. your label on, a factory.
Yeah.
So
I love that. It's beyond the brand.
mm-hmm.
It's much more than just putting water in a bottle.
Mm-hmm.
It's really moving into action and making a difference in our communities, in our extended communities, to our brothers and sisters overseas, and connecting to Black nations, which is really important, right?
That's my big vision is, I hope with the success that comes to Aqua Equity and our vision to get more in the beverage space, we're starting in all different types of beverage, but to look across what makes sense in the beverage space that we can do to uplift economics for the transatlantic Black diaspora, right? And we come from, as a Black people, in that transatlantic diaspora. So you're talking about Africa, the Caribbean here.
Yeah.
These are some of the most rich natural resource areas in the world. Like all the technology with smartphones and flat screens, the fiber optics that's in there has metals that only come from Africa, the 3 T's, tungsten, titanium, and tin.
Come on.
That's just one commodity. Coffee. The birth of coffee was Ethiopia.
Yes,
Cocoa.
it is.
I mean, there's things like, as Black people, we should be having more of a corner hold on, but we don't. But now with the knowledge and, kind of spreading that word, that's the idea, is to build up this kind of self-sufficient Black economics through entrepreneurship and see how we can solve our problems in the community through economics.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in that. Make money, make a difference.
Come on now. You are amazing, man.
Thank you.
I'm so happy I met you.
Me too.
I definitely want to continue our conversation even off camera, because there's so much richness that you have shared so far. But I don't want to miss the opportunity for you to really talk about your story, because I think it's a powerful story that a lot of people can relate to. And it can
That's
also,
a whole nother show.
We can sow some seeds back into our community by sharing our stories. And I think that's really powerful. That really makes change if we share stories. So take us back to federal prison.
Yeah, so I graduated high school in 95. So 95 was the golden age of like gangster rap, hip hop. So literally, like, as an 18-year-old, the soundtrack to my life was All Eyes on Me.
Yeah.
I mean, and so I graduated high school, and like I said, I had one foot in sports and then one foot in the streets, playing junior college football. But when football season over, you got the spring, got the summer. So I was wilding out, and I say we, me and a couple of my homeboys from the neighborhood, our way of getting money. We started off like, dope boys on the street, but I think that was the first type of like spark where I was thinking about my people, and I was feeling condemned, like I'm selling crack to my own people. And all the crackheads wasn't Black, but I'm in my own community trying to make money selling poison, and that got to me, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't go do something virtuous. I started robbing. I thought like, okay, this is a lesser of two evils. I'd rather rob some rich folks than, it was like a disillusioned Black Robin Hood.
Right.
I'm gonna stop serving poison to my people, and I'm gonna rob some rich white folks. And that was our hustle. And just coming out of our neighborhood, it was like you either made your money in sports, you made your money in entertainment, or you made your money selling dope or doing robberies. Those were kind of like the four things. I didn't see no Black businessmen, entrepreneurs. I saw it on TV, movies, Boomerang, me, Eddie Murphy. I saw that. I wanted to be like that, but I didn't see that in real life. I didn't think that was a real avenue. So that summer of '96, after I graduated, was probably one of the most wild years of my life. It was like a whole life in 3 months. I mean, we was on one. And so we went on a robbery spree, probably like over 50 robberies around LA, Orange County, the IE. I mean, we was robbing everything from Walmarts, Targets, jewelry stores, hospital. Like in the parking lot where the doctor parking lot was, like getting the doctor, like, yeah. And I just, I knew that was no future, you know what I mean? And we didn't shoot anybody or pistol whip anybody, but we scared the shit out of a lot of people, right? They don't know that. They scared for their life. And part of my language. And so that was eating at me. I knew, like, you know what? We need to stop doing this, bro. There got to be something else. And it kind of evolved where there was this thought about, you know what? Banks, man. Nobody cares about a bank, you know? That's like corporate America, you know what I mean? It's not personal. And so we had this idea that we're going to go federal, we're going to go big. And so it was August 1996. And we was plotting on the right bank that we thought, and it ended up being a hot bank. We didn't know in Vallejo that had been robbed by the romper room, and like, so Vallejo had a lot of robbery boys, and we didn't know that was a hot bank. And so they had plain clothes, undercover cops stationed at that bank all the time because they was getting robbed so much. It was like right off the freeway. Reason why I got robbed so much is because the position of it had a perfect getaway route. We from the IE visiting up in the Bay, we didn't know. At this time, like, this is what happened when you start doing crimes and getting away with it. You get lazy. You get, we gonna keep doing it. We get away with it. And so it ended up being a good thing meant to happen. We shouldn't have kept getting away with it. Yeah. And so I remember when I went to hit the door with the bag full of money and like to make my getaway, and we had only been in there less than 90 seconds. That was kind of our routine, like in and out 90 seconds. And they had two cops at the door with their guns drawn waiting. As soon as I turned the corner, I was like, it shocked me. And I'm like, get down. And I'm like looking around like, what's my move? Yeah. I got one gun. I got a gun in my hand, a bag. Like, they could have blew me away, you know what I mean? And then I hear boom, boom. And so now I hit the ground, boom. I'm thinking they shot at me because I didn't get down fast enough. My homeboy, and this was a bank inside of a grocery store. So we was robbing the bank and the grocery tellers. Like, we was getting greedy, like, you know what I mean? 2 for 1. He hitting all the check stands, and then so he seen what's going on. He busting at them. And then I hit the ground. I didn't know where I was coming from, and then they got on top of me, army of cops, and that was when I got locked up. They got away. Yeah. And that was my journey of getting locked up. And I was in, before I went to trial and all that, I went to federal prison, the federal holdover, where they kept me for 9 months. We were locked down 22 hours a day. 22? In a high-rise kind of jail.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, you got 1 hour twice a day of outside your cell. So I read a lot.
Oh, yeah.
You was only allowed 5 books, and it could be 5 books or magazines, right? So 5 reading materials and a writing pad and pencil. You didn't have a radio in your cell, no TV. And where we was at was a federal building in downtown Sacramento, and our rec was on the side of the building, like 14 stories up, facing away from the sun. So I didn't see the sun for 9 months because the sun was coming over the building. So we was in the shadow of the building. Yeah, that was crazy. Where I was locked up in the federal holdover was when Unabomber got locked up. So he was, in a high separate area. But so that was the beginning of like my real kind of journey on like wisdom and like how did I get here and like, reading, and I became very hungry on reading and studying the Bible. My cellie was this Armenian Christian that was in there for racketeering on the Armenian Russian mafia, so he barely even spoke English. What? Yeah, it was crazy. But Armenia, I don't know if you know them, that's where Mount Ararat is, where they think they Noah's Ark. Yeah. And so they're one of the first countries in history that declared Christianity as their religion, their national religion. So they've been in holy wars of Muslim countries since, the 300s. That said, usually a Christian out of there got a die-hard belief, what I mean, really devout. But because of that whole mafia tie, it reminded me of like what you saw on Godfather and all that. It was like, criminal, but still like, I love God.
Right.
But no, so we didn't, have a lot of words that we could say. We did a lot of like pantomiming and to try to speak to each other. But so he would point to scriptures in his book, which I could go in my Bible, and that time in there with him gave me a chance to break away from religion, right, in the churches and what has been kind of heaped up wrong that I know from tradition culturally, and just get more of a sense pure scripture, right?
Yeah.
And that really changed the dynamic of my life, because so then when I went to the actual prison yard, I was 19. I was the young. It was 2000. It was Terminal Island, not too far over here. A lot of people don't know there's a federal prison in the LA harbor that's been there since like the 1930s. It's old.
Ooh,
yeah. Al Capone was there. Like it's old. So I was the youngest of 2,000 prisoners on that prison yard at 19. And thankfully I had some old heads take me under their wing.
Yeah.
And like, hey, youngster, you're going to get out. Like, they knew I had like a 7-year. Yeah, so they immediately got me to start thinking about, you need to do this time. Don't let this time do you.
Yeah.
So what did that mean? Get you a routine, a positive routine. Work out on a regular basis, read every day, stay out of the, weeds of these folks, stay in your lane, don't get caught up on nothing like that, play a sport in here. So I took that advice. I learned chess, joined little sports teams in there, took the college courses. So some of the, I got a master's degree now, and some of the credits that went towards my bachelor's, that you need to get a master's, were earned in prison. So I was taking college courses in prison.
And his life changed, man. Your whole life changed. And, now you built this amazing company, and you are doing amazing work in your community. I got to give him his flowers again, y'all, because I love it. And we're going to have to do a part 2, because I have to definitely go deeper into his story.
Prison
for
life.
Sure.
There's a whole industry in prison that corporations take advantage of that labor. So we could talk about that. We could talk about like the whole recidivism and things that set them up for failure. I beat that, the 97% rate of recidivism. Recidivism is going back to jail once you get released.
Come on, Jesus.
I never went back.
Beautiful.
Glory to God. But part of that was education. So,
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. So before we go, we definitely want to make sure that everyone knows how to get in touch with you and your brand. Just give them your @, your website, everything.
At Aqua Equity on IG. You can email us, goodworks at aquaequitywater.com. That's how you can email us a message. But yeah, we really do try to communicate what's going on with the brand through our IG. Our website is aquaequitywater.com. So we're getting ready to update that on the things that we've been doing this year and towards the back end of last year. And just that's to let you know the support that you give Aqua Equity, it really does make an impact in so many ways. And our big milestone that we're working towards, that we can't wait to share with all you, is to have our bottling facility in South Central LA, where we have open hiring and hire folks that are touching the Aqua Equity brand, and that will allow us to do more donations and have a beverage incubator. So just the sky's the limit that we can do when we have this bottling facility. So that's what we're working towards now, and we hope to be cutting that ribbon the beginning of next year, January, February. So.
That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
Y'all, please follow Ryan. Please follow Aqua Equity. And if you want to follow me at I Am Maisha. Follow the show and share the show. Like the show. Watch the show. Listen to the show on all streaming platforms at Keys to the Culture Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, I'll see you soon.